Hi everyone, I am here with David and Colleen, and they are members of. Are you members? But you're also. Do you have positions at the Canadian?
Yes, we're
Company
both,
of Pilgrims.
Yeah, we're both members of the Canadian Company Pilgrims, and we have a few hats that we wear.
Okay.
We're chapter coordinators for the Hamilton chapter in Ontario, and I help train hospitaleros.
Very good.
And also one of the editors on the newsletter. I think that's it. Is that it?
Yep. Well, it
am
seems
I.
like
So
we've
you're
always,
involved then.
and then I'm on the board
Very
again. So I'm on the board. I chair the communications committee.
Okay.
And like Colleen, I'm a hospitalero, so we support
very
all
good.
sorts of different
Yes.
different places, but happen to have my hospi pin or badge
That's
or whatever
great.
it is. Yeah, so that's that.
Yeah.
What else? There's we're co-coordinators. I feel like there's something else that
I
I've
think
been.
we're missing-
There's a coordination between the board and our chapter coordinators. We have 18
Okay.
coordinators, so I
you're
help.
involved.
Yeah, I'm
We've, we've made it a full-time job.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
great. So and then because I got an email a few weeks ago because there's the Canadian Company of Pilgrims have a new initiative, the Mindful Pilgrim,
right.
and I wanted. Hopefully, we could talk a little bit what that is about and
Sure.
what that involves. But first, since you're here in Santiago, you have walked.
We
right?
have.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about your walk?
Well, it was not a linear walk, that's for sure. It was I've done the Francaise from Saint-Jean to Finisterre twice, so I'm used to a Camino following a flow and a rhythm, and this was not that. But it was wonderful in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It was. We started in Saint-Jean. I accompanied a small group of people over to as far as Zabeldica as part of a semi-supported Camino for people with trauma. So trauma-informed preparation and integration. So that went really well. And then I met David in Pamplona, and when we got in a car, which you don't usually do on a Camino.
Camino Rapido.
Well,
Right.
you wanted to get to your favorite spot, maybe then.
We had a plan.
We
Yeah.
had a plan, and so we did something in the middle, and then the intention was to walk the Primitivo and the San Salvador, but there was an injury.
Oh.
And we ended up back on the Francaise, and then
Okay.
the Ingles, and we were...
Oh, in English
Yeah,
as
so
well.
Also,
we actually
we-
completed one,
We
which
did.
is the Camino Ingles, albeit
Alright.
a short one.
Yeah.
But we were actually on 4 different Caminos on this trip.
Yeah.
But it seemed like it worked out.
But it worked out amazingly.
lovely,
And
yeah.
and what I didn't know much about the Ingles, but I'll tell you the entry into Santiago from the Camino Ingles is really gentle. It's beautiful. We had a lovely entry into the city because it's natural for quite a long way. Like it's only 5 kilometers from the city before you start to see
Yeah.
an industrial space in contrast with the Francaise.
Yeah.
And but even once you're into the city, in that part of the north of the city, it's little windy little roads,
Yeah.
and then you come out this little lane and poof, you're here in the middle of
Yes, and you don't see the cathedral
You don't
until
see
the end.
just
all the
about
way
the
to
end. Yeah. So it's a really lovely way to
nice.
come into the city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Did you get wet that day? That day when we had that storm?
We got soaked a few
Yeah,
times,
soaked,
yeah.
really soaked.
I picked up my mom at the airport in Porto that day, and we were driving home, and it was just like driving in
It
a
was
wash
driving. It
machine.
was just coming in
Yeah.
sheets.
Yeah.
And we had our
Hey,
ponchos.
forget
on.
about
Yeah. You're
forget
getting
about
wet.
poncho.
There is
doesn't
no
matter.
waterproof anything.
And wind, of
Yeah.
course.
Exactly. You're just that day. If
Yeah.
you're walking, you're gonna get soaked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Oh well.
Yeah. Well, and they actually. It was that day and way back at the beginning on the Pyrenees, because the day I was going over the mountain,
Oh, then you-
it was so wet and so cold. Like I've done this a couple of times, and just like I've never seen anything like it. And it's a long day, as you know. You go, it's what's like 25 or 6 kilometers, but you can't stop. You can't sit anywhere. You're getting soaked. So it means that you probably push your body a little bit too hard as well.
Oh, that one you got in.
And
That's
I'm thinking
probably-
that's when things started to go, which is,
Yeah.
that's what happens. But I
Yeah.
didn't feel it at the time. Anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyway.
Very good. Let's
We're-
talk about
we're dry
someone
now.
very nice from the
Yeah.
Canadian Association sent me these. I got them in the mail the other day. And so the Mindful Pilgrim. Tell us about what is
Sure.
this initiative?
So I had to ask Lee Pennick, who's one of our past presidents and one of the people who started this, along with another past president of the Canadian Company of Pilgrims, Wendy Lawley. The two of them, I didn't realize it went as far back as 2019 when this idea first emerged. And in that time, there was an international gathering of the friends of all the associations, the Friends of the Camino de Santiago. And that one was in Carrion de los Condes. And so they had been invited, the two of them, Wendy and Lee, to talk about one of the main topics for that particular meeting, which was, I think it was like landscape and environment and natural space. And in the course of their presentation, they came up with an idea that maybe there should be a code of conduct for pilgrims to address the occasional lapses of consideration for others in the landscape.
I think this is a good idea because I see pilgrims that walked, when I started the forum 20 years ago, people that walked the Camino, pilgrims, they knew more what they were getting into. There was more religious experience, and they had that background, and they knew the things that are listed here. It was kind of in them. And now people are find the Camino, find out about it, then maybe plan for 3 weeks, and they do it, and they don't have this in them.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And so out of that, so that's what, 5 years ago. More recently, we didn't put it as a code of conduct so much as can I use that one? More of a series of statements that kind of get you thinking about the way in three different main aspects, like the way of kindness, the way of respect, and the way I like this one the most of all of them, the way of openness and curiosity. Because, and that one appeals to me, especially the word serendipity shows up, and that's my favorite word on the whole card, because the Camino can be this wonderful experience if you're open and not too structured. And to your point a little bit, there's a lot of, I mean, it's important to prepare for anything, especially when you're doing something physically arduous, but also there's inner preparation for something like this. But sometimes we can get over prepared and too regimented and too locked into being in a certain place at a certain time. Hey, we do that in our regular lives all the time. Here's an opportunity to be a little bit more let go. So this is just a card that we give. This is the Canadian take of a conversation that's been going on with other associations. The Australians have an initiative that's similar. I've seen some posters that our friend Rebecca Scott has. I don't know if she's involved with, but I've seen her refer to these ones. It's like in Spanish the word values, and then a lot of different words about walking with certain values, kind of like what you were referring to earlier. So it's just a Canadian take on walking in a good way on the way. And we give these to all of our Canadian pilgrims when they buy a credential. That's and they take this and you know what, it's just food for thought. It's
a good idea.
I mean, lately we've started to share it with our Camino community more internationally. Johnny Walker Santiago, whom we ran into yesterday, sent it out to a collection of his friends around the world. So this and other similar initiatives are just trying to seed that idea that if it isn't already in you, and we noticed some examples this time that was like astonishing, and Colleen's can go on a tear.
Because they don't have that. They're going to Canary Islands on the beach, or it's not in there. It's not in them.
Yes, and it would be great to get this card to those particular folks.
Yes.
So I'm not sure how to do that. That's a great question. But so we...
If I can help, by the way.
Perfect.
Because I'm shipping.
Yeah.
Please take this card.
Yes.
So and I understand, I've walked too, and I know it takes some time to get used to living with other people, which is what the dormitories are all about. And it takes at least a few days to get into a rhythm of where's my stuff and how do I do this in a quiet way and be aware of other people. But we were as far as O Sobrero, and we sat, it was at the Municipal.
Right.
And you actually sat up and stared at this person, hoping to that he would become aware of what he was doing. He packed and unpacked his bag for 45 or 50 minutes next to a sleeping human being with his light going all over the place, and really it was not possible to redirect him.
One example.
He was completely unconscious of it because when he left, David said "Buen Camino," And he was all smiles. He
Yeah.
had no idea what he
Yeah.
was doing.
He wasn't
It was
a jerk.
completely.
No,
he was
yeah.
not a jerk.
He just didn't know.
He was,
He didn't
and I love the
know.
word you used, unconscious.
He was unconscious. That was Kim's word. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just really, but by the time you've got to Sobrero, you've had enough experience. If you're aware, like being mindful is about seeing. It's about paying attention and being compassionate.
Because if some people might see that and get angry at him,
Right.
and then he
Oh.
would respond with anger back, and
Right.
then you're in the wrong way.
Right.
Then you're
Well,
going down the wrong path.
Exactly.
We were turning into. We had to be careful ourselves because we were turning into. Who are those angry Muppets?
Oh, Waldorf and Stadler. You know, the grumpy
We were-
men on the
We were
on
getting
the
very
Muppets.
cranky.
Oh yes, the
You know
one on the
those-
balcony. Yeah,
And we're
yeah,
going,
yeah.
okay, we're becoming Waldorf and Stadler.
And that's not
but you have to
helping
rein it
us
because that's
either.
not us.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
But sometimes, you know, when you, we just saw more of it this time.
We
And
did,
we've,
yeah.
like the last time we were here was
Yeah.
2 years ago, and we found, even in 2 years,
Yeah.
now this is anecdotally, this is just us, our experience. But
I feel
there's
like
something
this
different
is true.
every year.
Yeah,
Every year. It's a
yeah,
little
I
different.
meet also people that are, you could just see they're not tuned in.
Yes,
They're
they're in their
They're
own
on
heads.
vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
Exactly, they're on vacation, which
Yeah.
is different than
Which
being
is
on
different.
pilgrimage.
But you know what's
But
interesting?
although this is, I mean, these are things you could think about even when you go on vacation.
Absolutely,
Of course.
that's
I mean,
true. Think
all-
about these things all the time.
Yes, exactly.
for all of us.
You don't have to do the pilgrimage just to.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the first line here, be kind to your fellow pilgrims. It could be just be kind to your fellow human.
Exactly.
This is just the golden rule.
But
This
you
is all
have
it is.
you have
really,
to
at the
see
end of
them
the day.
first. You have to see that there's a human there
Right.
first, and there's another person having a different experience.
Right.
And that's the first step is looking.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
So-
this is a good initiative because there's a lot of people criticizing now that they're not pilgrims. The new ones are coming in, walking just a few days, and they're just coming in with their suitcases and but how do you make them pilgrims? How do you make them understand what this is? And maybe something like this would at least try to.
But and I think some of those people might already have this in them. I mean,
Yep.
some of the people
We've
that can
met
only
some.
come for 5 days and they have a suitcase, I don't
Yeah.
know what their story is. They travel very
Yeah.
respectfully. The person that was in El Sobrero was carrying his
Like
bag. He
us
was
with
packing
packs.
up, and he was on the whole road. So
Yeah.
we have to be careful not to judge people, but also to say, hey, 50 minutes
Yeah.
packing your bag
Yeah.
next to sleep
Yeah.
with people.
And you know, and sometimes it's just a gentle alert, and there are now 2 instances, this time and back in Logroño,
I remember that.
where I have in a gentle, because I had to think about it, because I wanted to rein in the Scorpio and because you can go that direction, and
Yeah.
as you say, then you're going down a bad way.
Yeah.
So just okay, so now how am I going to offer an alternative approach to what's going on here, and maybe show something or say something. And fortunately it worked, but I'm by no means great at that, and I have to be careful, especially when you're the one that just got woken up
Right.
at 5 a.m. and you have to be on your best behavior to
Yes.
make this a better experience for the other 40 people
Yeah.
on the floor, on the mats,
Yeah.
who are really tired from whatever they just did yesterday. So there's a balance, but I think we do need to say something gently but directly to those that need to hear it, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't know if those are quite the right words, but
I
that's
think
the intention.
And the danger could be if we don't do that. I know we've talked to a couple of people that said they're avoiding albergues and dormitories because they need to sleep and they're afraid of,
Yeah.
and
Which is
those experiences are some of the most be some of the most transformative kinds of experiences. So,
Yeah.
and because you're with people, you're not off in your own hotel room, which I do like to do every 5 days or so.
Yeah.
But because I'm human, but
Yeah,
we would
a lot of the magic on the Camino happens in those public albergues where you meet
communal
Exactly.
meals
and that's that openness and curiosities. These things that just happen that are just lovely and fulfilling and
Sometimes I
magical.
also see on the forum people that are coming in, they don't know what's going on. They're trying to figure out what this Camino is all about, and they see them sleeping together with other people in the same room, and they're asking questions, trying to figure out what are the norms, what are you supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do. So I think also, like you said, some people or many people they have good intentions, they just don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know
Because
what?
the
Those people are asking.
on the door, I guess it doesn't. Does it say
Some do.
Sometimes.
in Spanish?
I
Or
well, if you're in Galicia,
yeah.
in the hostels, they're in 3 languages, I believe. It's
Okay.
it's Castellano, Gallego, and English.
Mm.
But I have a picture of one because I was fascinated by what it said. It was all kinds of rules about the administration of the building, and there was one little line about like this be considerate of the people. It was all about
It was
process
rules
and
to
not
make
people.
the people that run it
Right.
easiest
Yeah.
for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Not
Right.
aimed
Right.
to get
Right.
taking care of the
Right.
pilgrim community
Yeah.
more than
Yeah.
I understand. Yeah.
When I think about what happens at the very beginning of a walk, if say you're going to start in Saint Jean Pied de Port, for example, there are these wonderful volunteers at the pilgrim office, and wouldn't that be an interesting opportunity for some of them to put a gentle word to just one little thing about
Yeah.
these norms, just to
Yeah.
get you on a good footing? Because many of us
You
got
could
good words from folks like
these there
Joseph
at the
and
fir-
Valeria.
Get this one at the first office.
Yeah.
That would be good.
So
I think you did drop one off.
yeah, I gave
Who's-
one to there was a French speaking volunteer there, so I
Yeah.
got us in on the French language
All
version.
right.
So so
Good.
we've done these in 2 languages so far, and
But I think the donativos do create a bit more of a culture
Oh, yeah.
of how to be aware of each other and
Yeah.
to be
Yes,
kind.
because I guess they're more conscious. Being
Yeah.
a donativo Albergue, they're more conscious of
They set the
keeping
they
this
set the
atmosphere.
culture. Yeah.
well, and it's about creating community in a donativo. I mean, it's
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a great phrase. I think it's this sort of, because when we volunteer as hospitaleros, and then we're going to donativos in particular, and we love them because they have that energy, that space, and that tradition. But you talk about people landing in layers.
Yeah, you can see it. When we're in Berciano, so at the end of the Meseta, and you can see people arriving layer by layer. They look around, as you say, to see what is it like here, what are the norms here, and then they feel safe and they feel seen, and they help make dinner, and then the next morning it's
Everybody's
like
hugging everybody at that point.
That's
It's really
It's beautiful.
that to me is like that's what restores my faith in
Yeah.
humanity.
Yes.
These kinds of Camino experiences, because sometimes you can get a little banged around by life, right?
And I don't know if everybody, because you talked to a few people that had things organized for them ahead of time, not really a tour, but I'm not sure about where you get your things scheduled. They didn't know about the donativos, so
Yeah.
David's been educating people.
Well, I've been
way about
asking
that.
people,
Yeah.
and
Donativos.
and asking them. Well, they ask me because they see my pack. I mean, it's not here, but it looks like there's been a few Caminos involved, right? Because
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. It's got all sorts of stuff dangling off of it right now. Maybe I'll send you a picture of that. But
Okay.
but they'll ask and they'll say, well, and then we'll describe our experience both as pilgrims and as hospitaleros, and they go, well, what's that about? And then we inevitably talk about the donativos, and they go, and I say, do you know what those are? And you're at O Sobrero at this point, and they don't know the answer to that question. They don't know what they are.
Yeah.
But when I have spoken to these people, they're really intrigued. There's a lot of them that are really intrigued. And so, whatever way they got to the Camino, some of them, and I would say a decent majority of them, are already thinking, well, you know what? Now that I have the confidence of having done it in a supported way, I'm kind of interested in what you just said about this other way.
Yeah.
And I bet you any money,
Yeah.
in a year or two, you'll see them back here
That's good.
traveling in a different kind of a Camino. So they get here one way or the other, and hopefully different experiences and messages are brought into
Yeah.
them, and
Yeah.
they'll carry on and learn more some other day.
Good.
I think so.
Great. Well, I think this is a great initiative, and as I said, if you
Yeah.
need help with
Yeah, thank you.
sending this out, I could.
Oh, do you want to do the
Yeah,
QR
we got
code?
well. So we
we have.
have.
Explain
I
that.
just so this is brand new. This just happened in the last couple of days. So
Okay.
I guess it was a board meeting or an officers meeting a week or so ago, and we had already been thinking about, well, wouldn't it be nice to create this text in all the different languages that you hear on the Camino,
Yeah.
or many of them. And so one way you could do that is you could have a QR code that goes to a place, and you could see all this text in the dominant languages that you hear, and we'd get through as many of them as we could. adding and adding over time. So one of our directors, Tim, he's our IT guru, came up with a QR code.
Oh, good.
So
So if you want to scan this code, get your phones up if you're watching this on the computer, and
Yeah.
then you could scan it. I'll put it up on the screen.
Yeah.
And then, so this takes you.
So
then,
I just took it from him, and then I figured out a way to put it on the wallpaper of my phone.
Oh,
So this is an iPhone, so I just took a picture and I made this my wallpaper. And so, like, I could just walk around on the Camino, and if we had this kind of conversation, say, "Oh, you're interested in more? Here, scan that."
Yeah.
Just like you
and
scan
that
my
takes you
WhatsApp.
to
Yes.
this text.
It would take you directly to a dedicated page on Santiago.ca, which is the Canadian Company of
I have
Pilgrims
it.
website, right?
Different
And it'll go
languages.
straight to the Mindful Pilgrim page, and we'll grow that space
Okay.
over time, and we'll make it more inclusive in terms of providing
That's
other
nice.
languages.
I can put a link to that page also in the description of the video.
Yeah. So those
Great.
that's what's going
Well,
on.
Did you want to hold up the QR code?
Oh yeah.
Is that what you were supposed
Well,
to do?
we're gonna. You're gonna
Yeah, email it to me or
Email
send it
it.
to me, and I'll put it up on the screen.
Okay.
That way, it's
Yeah.
much better
Great.
quality.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Good.
that'll be the resolution will be good.
Yeah.
So
Good. Anything else you wanted to
well,
mention before
we should also be mindful Canadians. That's why we're
Oh,
wearing
yes.
our
Yes.
orange.
What is this?
So today is September 30th, and it's an important day in Canada. It's called National Truth and Reconciliation Day.
Okay.
And as you know, probably, the international news recently, there's been the dreadful stories of children being abused and dying in residential schools. Now, that's not a unique Canadian story. I mean, sadly, there's a colonial impact that's been left in other parts of the world, but we certainly have become much more aware of it since 2015 in Canada, when mainstream Canada finally started getting their eyes open to the fact that there had been residential schools and abuses of little children stolen from their families and also really badly treated, and many died. Anyway, the orange is because one of the survivors of the residential school system, Phyllis Webstad, was a little girl who had this orange t-shirt that her grandmother had given to her, and so she was proud to be going off to school in her orange t-shirt. Well, the minute she walked into school, the authorities took the t-shirt away. I believe they cut her hair so that it was all uniform, not in the traditional long of the indigenous community she came from. And so she started up the Orange Shirt Day. I think it's like a movement, it's a foundation. Okay. So if you look orangeshirtday.org, you can get more information about this. But you'll see now in Canada, you never saw this before 2015. People wearing orange shirts or wearing an orange ribbon of some sort.
I hadn't heard this.
Yeah, no, it's like Canadians are only just fairly recently becoming more aware of it, but it's an important thing that we need to come to terms with and work on the ongoing reconciliation between all the different peoples that live in Canada and the indigenous people, of course, for thousands and thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah.
Long before folks like my kin showed up, right?
Exactly. The Vikings were the first ones, no?
Yeah.
That's right, of course.
Well, first from Europe, yeah. So
very good. Well, thank you for coming by and talking about
Yeah.
the Mindful Pilgrim. And as I said, I'll link below to the web page that describes this project on the Canadian Company of Pilgrims website. And have a good trip home.
Thank you.
Well, we're so glad to be
ready.
back in Santiago.
Yeah.
Lovely to see you again,
Same
and
here.
thank you for the welcome here to your
Okay.
beautiful new space.
Thank
And
you.
I would love to take pictures of your space and put it up on our social
Alright.
sites if you
Yes.
permit that,
Of
because
course.
we'd love to remind people this is a great stop, along with the cathedral
Yes.
and our friends next door, Pilgrim House.
Yes, of
So
course.
and of course our favorite tapas bars, but we'll
Yes.
highlight that for you
All
as
right.
well.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ivar.